What's up, everyone, and welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio, the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup, based out of Folsom, California. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is dedicated to bringing you the inspirational people and the inspirational stories to help you get grounded so that you can live a more purposeful and passionate life. We have a really special guest with us today. It's the first day that I've met this young man, and I am so excited and inspired by him. Cooper Robinson, welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio, man.
Thank you very much for having me.
For everybody that doesn't know Cooper, Cooper is right now a baseball player for the University of Kentucky, and you're a junior for the University of Kentucky, right?
Yep.
And you are a right-handed pitcher, and what do you weigh, like 245 pounds, something like that?
Not that much, 225.
Man, I'm sorry. Should we edit that out?
No, I wish I was 245 of just pure muscle. That would be good.
How tall are you, Cooper?
6'4".
6'4". Okay, so 6'4", 225 pounds, pitcher, and he is from Folsom, California. You went to Folsom High School, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's so awesome, man. Well, you know what I'd love to talk to you about right from the get-go is your journey. You know, starting baseball. When did you start playing baseball?
From a very young age. So like T-ball, right when you could. I was kind of, as a kid, one of the kids that just wanted to play everything. So I played baseball, I played basketball, I played football, I played water polo, like just soccer, anything you can imagine. I did karate for a little bit, I did swim. And that was for me just trial runs as a kid to decide, oh, I like this. Like, for instance, I hated swim team. I wanted nothing to do with just swimming back and forth. And so I begged my parents to just let me stop. And they said I have to do, I think it was 3 years. They said I had to do 3 years so I could be a good swimmer, and then they could be done. But baseball from a very young age, I played, ended up continuing. I played baseball, basketball, and football in high school. And then I was strictly baseball from my junior year of high school on.
And were you playing high school and then also some sort of club baseball, or how does that work at that age?
So high school baseball takes place in the spring. So summer ball for me was when you play for a club team. And they call it travel baseball. And essentially you're just going around playing against other teams in the summer. And sometimes that kind of carries over into the fall, a little bit into the winter until you begin high school season again.
Gotcha, man. Right on. So you go through high school, you have a great high school career, and then you end up getting picked up to play UC Irvine?
Yep. Yeah.
So how did that whole process go, the whole like recruiting process and looking to go to school process, and how did you decide to end up going to the University of California, Irvine?
Yeah. So the recruiting process for me was, I think, a very different story just because of how late it was. My freshman year, which is kind of about the time when kids start, okay, you can tell they're pretty different. And some commit, that would be committing really early. But my freshman year, I came into high school, I was 5'4". I was chubby, like no colleges were ever going to consider me to play for their baseball team. Just kind of stuck with it. Sophomore year, grew a little bit, still kind of chubby. Ended up getting to junior year, and like my junior year to junior summer, in between junior and senior year, I grew a ton. And for me, that was enough to like figure out what my body was doing. I learned how to lift. I'd like a bunch of things kind of fell in line to where, okay, I had a good summer before my senior year, and I started talking to colleges. Nothing huge. They were pretty much all mid-majors in California or pretty local. So just like flat out UC Irvine was my best offer, and I wanted to play Division I baseball. They had just won the Big West, which is the league that they're in, and went to the Stanford Regional. So for me, it was like, all right, this is a program that has success. I'm playing college baseball. I want to win a national championship. Why wouldn't I go to a place that was pretty close to just doing that? So that was my decision.
Dang, that's amazing, man. So wait, so to step back a second, from your freshman year of high school to your senior year of high school, you grew a foot,
Whole foot, yeah,
a whole foot.
yeah,
And so when you're coming into high school, you love the sport of baseball. You want to play baseball after high school, but you're kind of struggling with some adversity with your height and just like in that, it
a hundred
seems
percent,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And for me, it was I hated it then, but now I can absolutely look at it as like, all right, that was a blessing because I had to learn to do things that I think typically I wouldn't have done if if I came into high school and I was already the guy, like super tall, doing all these things. So like for me, there's a difference between pitching and there's a difference between just like throwing. So I wanted to see time on the field, so I had to learn how to pitch because I wasn't going to be the guy that threw super hard, um, that was just like straight up overpowering guys. Like my freshman year of high school, I played freshman baseball. Sophomore year, I played JV baseball. Um, so like I had to learn how to be a pitcher before I could learn how to just overpower guys, and then that eventually came on. But while I was smaller and not fast and not strong and all these things, you had to learn how to get by. And then that learning how to get by helped me develop into like, okay, now I'm a pretty well rounded athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is that you were able to develop a more of a finesse to
Yes,
your pitching as your body grew and as you developed more strength, and then as that happened, where you were able to bring more power and more I don't know, like speed to your pitching and all that kind of stuff. But you were able to utilize the experience that you learned during that time of adversity.
exactly. Exactly.
That's amazing, man. And as a, like just as a person, what would you say that you learned from that experience of going through high school and just like how can you apply that to your everyday life?
Um, I think we'll probably talk about it a lot, but like consistency for me was huge. Um, and there was times where like my sophomore year, I struggled a lot just because I had friends around me that were kind of committing. I knew I had this dream of playing baseball or playing a sport in college, but it wasn't attainable, right? I had nothing to show for it that was going to like back up my dream to say, go. So for me, that was a struggle because you kind of decide, all right, what's my purpose? So my sophomore year, I struggled a little bit in school, um, and just trying to figure out who am I if I'm not a baseball player, because that comes into question if now maybe you're not going to play college baseball. Um, I didn't necessarily know I was going to grow a ton after that, but
Right.
for me, it was learning. Okay, I have to now be a person outside of baseball. I have to be Cooper Robinson before I'm Cooper Robinson, the baseball player. So that was super valuable for me, and just like learning to consistently show up. I was watching some video. I don't know, but like I forget where it's from. I think it was Georgia Tech football, and he said something along the lines of like, "How far are you willing to sprint if the distance is unknown?" So like for me, it was all right. I sprinted, and then all right, there's a roadblock here. I'm gonna stop, and I learned it's that stopping that's like you don't know what's ahead. Why not continue sprinting until you can't anymore? So I consistently showed up. I consistently did the things I had to do. And then whether that's a blessing that I continued to grow or matured or got stronger or whatever you want to call it, it all ended up working out because I just kind of consistently did everything I had to do to get better for that day. And it was like, okay, let's set myself up for another successful day tomorrow.
Yeah, that rocks, man. I mean, it is like that. What you do, the little things that you do on a consistent basis, day in and day out, week in and week out, year in, year out, ultimately build up. And for you, I know this is the first time that we've talked and we met, but your character as a human being is obviously a very positive, focused character. You're a
Yeah.
guy I want to be a friend with. You're a guy
Yeah.
that I have faith and trust in. And that's something obviously you've developed along the way as well. And of course, you've developed some amazing baseball skills from that. But would you agree with that your character has been developed through this?
Oh, 100%. And just as a person, it's you learn baseball teaches you so more, not just baseball, sports, any kind of adversity is going to teach you so much about just the thing that it's directly correlated with. So that for me is like, all right, you got to put yourself in tough situations to grow as a person.
Yeah, dang right. You'll always have that skill for you, you know? Okay, so let's jump back in. You get accepted to go to UC Irvine, the Anteaters, right?
Yeah.
The Anteaters. I knew that. And you're right down there near Newport Beach. How about tell us about the experience of playing for UC Irvine? You were there for a couple of years, is that right?
Yeah, 2 years. And that was absolutely awesome. Like, I had the ability to play my freshman year. I had the ability to play my sophomore year. And so that for me was, I never had to redshirt. It was just learning experiences. So I didn't necessarily have the seasons that I wanted to, but I got to go to so many cool places. I remember like my freshman year, I think it was one of our first road series was at Oregon State. And just like I ended up getting in that game, and just like the feeling of running from the bullpen with, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 people. I remember it was cold as can be. Like, I was freezing, but you're never going to show that. And you get in the game, the last thing you're worried about is being cold, because you look around and you're like, all right, this is cool.
Yeah.
But that for me was like, all right, this is awesome. Like, this is college based. Like, it's validation, I guess, if you want to call it, just because you work your whole life for something and you see it on TV, maybe you see it in person, but like once you're on the field for the first time, you take a second to like look around. It's a really awesome feeling. And that was kind of my driving factor, was I wanted that feeling, and then I got that feeling, and it's like, all right, I want more. I want more of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so that got you to where you were, but then it also has kept you going, is what I'm hearing you say.
100%.
Yeah.
And then there's also levels to it, right? Of, all right, I played in front of 5,000. I want to play in front of 10,000. Like, what do I got to do that? All right, I played in front of 10,000. I want to play in a minor league stadium that's even bigger. All right, I want to play in a big league stadium that's bigger.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's always levels to it that you're never really satisfied, and that for me is exciting, because I never want to feel like, okay, I made it, I'm good. Like, I can get lackadaisical.
Yeah,
So,
you always want to like have that beginner's mindset in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is cool because we teach this at Spotted Dog Yoga. Just to everyday people that are doing their lives, is that it's important to be present, which is where I'm hearing you say, like, you stepped in and to play, you came out of the bullpen, 5,000 people, and you're like, whoa, you're present. You're like, this is amazing. I love this. Like, you're not worried about the cold. You're just like juiced. You're in the game. This is what I work for. And then also what we teach as Spotted Dog Yoga is the importance of looking at possibility, and it's not just being present, seeing where you're at, and then thinking that that's all that there is, but also looking for possibility and looking in a big sort of a way towards possibility, but then coming back to being present and doing the day-to-day consistent activities that it takes to get you to where you want to go, and then someday you just show up there and you're like, damn, I'm in front of 10,000 people, or I'm in front of 15,000 people. Like, that work, it happens, but you have to be able to look into the future a little bit and know where you want to go in order to create that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think for me is I've been now playing college baseball for almost 3 years. It will be at the end of the season. And then I've been playing baseball my whole life. So like the stuff that I have to do, like I know when I wake up in the morning, I have a checklist of things I have to do. Maybe I have to throw that day. Maybe I have to lift. Maybe I have to make sure I prioritize stretching out, doing yoga. Like I have a checklist, so I have to just do that checklist. And for me, sometimes it becomes like this monotonous task where you're doing it every single day, so it's nothing special. And I think that's what's gotten me to where I am now, is that I just understand, like, this is my day. I have to do this. And I had a conversation with my parents recently, because in their mind, it's like such a cool thing that I get to throw a bullpen, and they want to watch it. And so like I've had the conversation with them. It's like why is that so cool to you? And to the outside perspective, that of course it would be cool. It's their son throwing a bullpen, like doing what he loves. And then for me, I just came from a point of view of I don't understand it because I do this 2 times a week. I play catch 5-6 times a week. Why would you guys care about something I'm doing? And so that was like a opening, like a, like mind opening thing for me. Was like, okay, this isn't something that everyone gets to do every day. And I'm blessed to be in this position, and they want to see their son continue to do what he loves. So that's why they enjoy it.
Yeah, that is so neat. That is, I mean, I have 2 young kids, and I'm from just speaking from a parent of a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. When I see my 6-year-old at the bike park going over this jump that scares me,
yeah,
I'm like, damn, that's amazing. I have like, it's one of these feelings that as a parent, if you see your son or daughter or, anyone that's younger, like you, Cooper, you inspire me. When you see somebody doing something and living out their dream, it reminds me as an older person that anything is possible.
yep.
Really it is, and it, mentally, I think a lot of people take themselves out mentally as people get older. They forget to get present and see where they are and see the beautiful things around them. And then they forget to look forward and think like, what's next for me? They just, a lot of times they just want to stay where they are and stay comfortable. And so I think it's neat to see a person like you living out your dreams, and so neat for your parents. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But then also for humanity, brother, you doing that work makes a huge difference for people, the fans, the kids of the fans, those people that are watching you and looking up to you,
Yeah. Well, and I think a part like for me to go back to is I'm not here to tell you I'm perfect. I'm not like no one is. And so I absolutely get caught in that trap of the days blending together, worrying about the future. What do I have to do for the future? Instead of being present. So I think that having those conversations with my parents, having these conversations with you, like allows me to take a step back and be present and look at like what I've done to get here, where I am now, instead of being like, yeah, it's cool that I'm here, but this is where I have to go. What do I have to do to get there?
Yeah,
so
totally.
Allowing myself to take a step back and be present.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. The other thing you mentioned to me and I want to bring up too is that repetition is the mother of mastery, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, you said that you're like, man, I might be doing these daily chores on my checklist and it seems monotonous. At the yoga studio, we teach a pretty specific sequence, and we teach people like you go in there, you're going to have a consistent experience.
Yep.
Right? The reason is because if you do it consistently, like you talk about over time, then that's how you master something, or work towards mastering something. You know what I mean? And I think people, a lot of times they'll start with something and then they go off like a dog chasing a squirrel towards something else. And then they're like in 50 different directions and they forget to be consistent. And then next thing you know, they miss out on what could have been,
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump back to UC Irvine. So you play there for 2 seasons. Yep. Killer experience, I'm guessing, right? 2 thumbs up. Awesome.
Yes.
And then did you play in a summer league ball program or some kind of a league that I read about?
Yeah. So the way college baseball works is that you play your spring season and then almost anyone on that team is going to go play summer ball. So, like I was telling you earlier, before my freshman year, I played in Boise, Idaho. In between after my freshman year, before my sophomore year, I played in Wisconsin Rapids, which is dead middle of Wisconsin. And then after my sophomore year, before my junior year, before this year, I played in the CCL. So I got to play in Lincoln, which was a cool experience for me because I got to stay home. But I think it goes back to like all those things that I would never go to Wisconsin. I probably would have never went to Boise, Idaho. All these places that I would never go to, I have now been and lived. And for me, that's just cool because you get all these different experiences, right? So I I've been super thankful for that. But yeah, this summer I played in Lincoln for the Lincoln Potters.
Okay, got you. And then you made the shift. You transferred from UC Irvine. Is that how
Yeah,
it works? From UC Irvine's a 4-year school, right?
yeah.
So you ended
So
up transferring to Kentucky. How did
yep.
that end up happening?
So that was a pretty crazy road because I the transfer portal, which in college sports is now this huge topic because you have guys that get stuck in the transfer portal and essentially have nowhere to go, and you also have guys that are getting offers from the transfer portal to make upwards of $1 million. So it's like anywhere in between that is where you can fall into. So
Okay, let's pause a second. What is it? How can you make up to $1 million playing college ball?
so I don't know how many years ago they introduced NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. So now college athletes have the ability to promote themselves in a way that could make them money. So whether that's boosters, whether that's there's guys getting car deals, anything you can imagine they can now do, which essentially makes college sports like the wild, wild west now. I mean, you have guys making more money in college than they're making when they go professional. So adds this entire new step to it that makes it more interesting, but also there's more opportunity, right, for people to help their family if they need it and all these other things.
Okay, yes, and so you're saying there's a range. There's some people that are just like they don't have anywhere to go, and then there's some people that are getting set to make millions of dollars playing, and they're in the transfer portal, and so that's you're moving from Irvine to Kentucky. Somehow you're in the transfer portal.
Yes.
Sounds like space age kind of. I know it's not, but
it really is crazy because, I mean, before the transfer portal, there was never a world where, because now you have the ability to, let's say Sac State is down the road. Let's say you have a crazy good year at Sac State. You're the best player. There's no world in which you're going to leave if there's not the transfer portal, right? Your spot is set. Now, with the transfer portal, with NIL, you have a good year at Sac State. What's stopping you from saying, all right, I'm going to enter the transfer portal. I'm going to now go to the SEC. I'm going to go to the ACC, wherever, and I'm now going to make money. I'm going to play in front of more fans. Like, maybe raise your draft stock, maybe not. But, like, now there's this entire possibility where before it was like, no, I had a good year. I'm going to stay here because I'm assured a spot next year.
right.
So it makes it pretty wild.
So how did the transfer portal end up for you?
So early on, it was a lot of mid majors that I was talking to, getting offers from, and that was cool for me just because I got to talk to new people. I got to like essentially pitch myself to them to say, this is why you need me. And then I ended up having a really good summer season. So kind of throughout when I started putting up numbers in summer ball and towards the end of summer ball, I started getting bigger offers, talking to bigger schools. And my whole thing was I've spent my entire life in California. So before I moved to Folsom my freshman year, we lived in Sacramento. So I spent my entire life in California. I wanted to go to school outside of California. I wanted to play in the South. I wanted to play maybe in the East Coast, like wherever I wanted to leave. And so I kind of narrowed it down to a couple of schools. And for me, it was the decision between Michigan and Kentucky. And there was an issue or a potential issue with me getting into Michigan because of academics and courses transferring over and whatnot. And Kentucky came into the picture, and I was like, look, I don't know if I say no to them, if I say no to Kentucky, and then I say yes to Michigan, and then I don't get into Michigan, now I don't necessarily know I don't necessarily know where I'm gonna go because I just told all these other schools no.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'd be stupid to not take my offer from Kentucky to be able to play in the SEC. They just hosted a regional. They won the regional, went to a super regional. I don't know if you know how this works, but
I don't, but I'm getting it. I mean, there's stages of
yeah,
success that they're having through their season. Yeah.
yes. So went to a super regional, ended up losing in the super regional to LSU, who ended up winning the whole thing.
Dang. Okay.
So LSU won the national championship last year, and once again, it's the same position that I was in high school. It's like this team just had success. I was a lot more aware of who I am, I would say, and understanding that, like, look, I know what position I'd be successful in, and it was one of those things I was pretty cut and dry to say, look, this is how I want to be. This is how I want to be successful for your program. If you don't agree with that, if you guys believe something else, that's okay. I appreciate your time. Thank you for talking to me. Best of luck, right? Because I was going to kind of save my time and energy to say, this is how I want to produce for your school. If you agree with that, if you want to help me develop in that direction, awesome, let's do it. And
so, sorry to interrupt you, man, but say that I'm the University of Kentucky and you're pitching yourself to me. What are you going to produce for me as a school? What was your pitch? That's kind of funny. What was your pitch?
yeah, I know. Well, I knew I wanted to be a starter. With that being said, I understand I have to earn that, right? So I am someone through maturity or whatever you want to call it, I've found out I'm definitely a routine-oriented person. So I enjoy being in a routine. That's when I feel like I'm my most successful person. So as a starter, you're allowed to have that. With that being said, I'm not opposed to having to come out of the bullpen. Everyone has to do it. You got to earn it. You got to earn the ability to go start. So that was my pitch. Is like, look, I want to be a starter. I want to. I don't know how to say this without getting super baseball technical, but like I knew what my pitches do. I want to be able to develop those. I want to be able to lock into those because I know how I'm going to have success. So for me, it was saying like, this is how I threw in the summer. This worked for me, obviously, with the numbers that I put up. I know this will work in any league. How do I now, let's develop this instead of like, I don't want to go in a position where I get to the school and they're like, let's change everything. Like that's a nightmare situation you never want to be in.
Right.
So developing what I have now instead of completely trying to change everything was my biggest thing.
That's amazing. And I think a really great approach to it too. You want to put yourself in a place where you're going to be happy and where the people that are working with you know how to develop you. Let's talk about that a little bit. What was what's the transition been from UC Irvine to Kentucky in regards to the speed of play and the level of coaching and leadership and the teammates and players you're around? What is the whole environment like and how is it different?
Yeah, it's something that, so in college baseball, the SEC is like historically known as the best conference in college baseball. So going from the Big West, which is mid-major, to the SEC is a big difference alone because now you're around guys that what I have noticed is that the guys that you're around are, whether they work their ass off every day, whether they kind of show up and are just God-gifted freak athletes, like everyone is good. And everyone has something that is elite that you've probably never seen. So like just sitting back on days I don't have to throw and watching the games, watching our inner squads is a pretty cool experience. The experience as a whole is completely different. I mean, they hosted a regional. They beat Indiana in the regional in that final game. This is Kentucky. And I think there were 8,000 or 9,000 people there. like at the Kentucky, it's called Kentucky Proud Park. So just seeing the videos of that, seeing those experiences of them dogpiling, it's like it raises this cool like, all right, I want to be a part of this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they just recently, Kentucky just recently redid their field. I'd say a couple years ago, and it's a like 50, $60 million stadium, state of the art. Like everything is just unbelievable stuff. So it obviously makes it easy to show up every single day. And if like there's a day you're not feeling it and you show up to the field and like everything you could ever imagine is there, it makes it easy to do the things you have to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're playing for an elite program in
Yeah,
the SEC. That is so exciting. I'm really excited for you. What is it like living in Kentucky?
very different.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's I think I've noticed that like I hate to just hop on the bandwagon, but like the people are nicer and it's just like everyone wants to have a conversation. You're in an elevator, you're at Starbucks picking up coffee, like whatever. Everyone wants to know your story. Like, oh, you're from California. Like, why'd you come here? And I just think that's a cool environment to be around. Is like this loving environment. I tell a story so often, but like the first time I went there, I went to this chicken spot that was right by my house. Me and my dad went there, and I walked in, and the lady who was working there was like, "Hello, um, if no one else has told you this today, I love you. What can I get for you?" And it was one of those experiences that's like you walk in, you're just expecting to get some chicken, sit down, eat, and leave. And to walk in and have a lady you've never met before tell you she loves you, it's like, dang, I love you too. Like this is awesome. So that was my first experience, and it was like, all right, this is really cool. Like this whole Southern hospitality thing, it's real.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty good, man. Kentucky sounds like a pretty good place. It sounds a little bit like Boise, Idaho, man. When we first moved up here, I was blown away at the speed in which life and how it slowed down and how important people seemed to place emphasis on slowing down and connecting.
Yes.
And for me moving out of California there, it was even hard for me to slow down. I was like, on task, like I'm going to go here, here, here. What's this person want to talk to me about? But then it like them being like that slowed me down and made me feel like I was part of a community, a bigger community. And it just like all of a sudden I felt like loved. That's
Yeah.
cool.
We'll go off track here, but there's
That's good.
so in high school it was a big thing that people from Folsom High School were always going to Boise, and I always like made fun of it because I wasn't doing it, so it was easy to be like, oh, of course you're going to Boise State, and then I ended up going there for the summer before my freshman year, spent a summer there, and I was like, okay, I get it. This place is awesome. It was such a cool environment, like nice people, super pretty. Downtown Boise is awesome.
Yeah.
So I told my parents, I was like, all right, I'll stop making fun of it because
Well, that's good, Cooper. Now you know somebody else from here. Well, you're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come visit me. It's the thing about Folsom too, though. That's great is that it has that community vibe. I know for those of you listeners who haven't heard our show before, or don't know who I am. My wife Katie and I opened Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup 10 years ago. This January 1st, this New Year's, and the part of the reason we opened the studio, the main reason is to create a community within a community. And what I've found is that Folsom is like this neat little pocket of people who do care about community. And even though it is a really great community based city, as it's grown, it's become harder and harder for people to find places like Spotted Dog Yoga to come in and to meet people like Cooper, to meet, the amazing staff or community that go there. And so having places of community within a community is super important. And I also hear that about what you're talking about with the University of Kentucky. It sounds to me like, you're living in a great place, but you're also a part of a great program with people that care about you and they take care of you, and that is another thing that keeps people coming back. Would you say that keeps you going back every day and keeps you motivated and excited?
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, there's so many things to do in California that I think we can talk about this. We can bring this up as many times as you want. Like, it's hard to be present.
Yeah.
There's so many things, especially in Southern California where I was. It's easy to kind of just get lost. So when you go to a place like Kentucky where there's not much to do in Lexington, like Lexington is the University of Kentucky. So the people who just live in Lexington just eat, sleep, and breathe UK, which is just a cool experience to be around because you just feel supported. And so, yeah, that's just a completely different experience that's hard to kind of explain until you felt it.
Yeah, I can see that there's probably a big difference between UC Irvine and University of Kentucky in that way because the whole city is around you, is behind you.
Exactly.
Definitely. One of the intriguing things that you mentioned to me before this, well, you all don't know, but Cooper was coming into town for the holidays and he reached out to Spotted Dog Yoga and said, "Hey, I want to do some yoga there." So I was like, "Cooper, why'd you choose Spotted Dog Yoga?" So why did you choose Spotted Dog Yoga? And then tell us about the yoga you're doing with the University of Kentucky. I'm so excited that there's more of that in sports nowadays.
Yeah. Well, Spotted Dog Yoga for me was something that I just always saw in Folsom, whether that was at Folsom High School events. Because I think at one point you guys did like for the volleyball team at Folsom High School or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally,
So
man.
I had friends there that I know did that. And so it's just like you always saw it around, and I had never done an in-person class in Folsom. So I was like, all right, I am back now. I want to try it. Why not try something that I know I've seen before and I've had friends that have done it. So that was a pretty easy thing for me. And then, yoga in sports was something that I didn't do until college because I think there's a stigma around like yoga or just like stretching in general that like, oh, I'm a man, I don't need to stretch. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
So learning that, all right, I take care of everything I can possibly take care of. Nutrition, lifting, cardio, throwing, whatever. All that means nothing if you're injured. And then you look at, all right, how do I stay healthy? Long, loose muscles produce the most power is something that I was told, I think, every single day when I was either early in college or late in high school was like, long, loose muscles produce the most power, or say the opposite, like a cold rubber band is only going to snap. So, like, you're lifting as much as you can, you're running as much as you can, like, that's a cold rubber band that's super tight that's ready to snap. So, how do I stay healthy? That was the only thing that I hadn't addressed was yoga or just stretching. And so, we didn't necessarily do it a ton, or I wouldn't even say we did it at all my first 2 years at Irvine. And then I got to Kentucky, and there was this huge emphasis on it to where it's like it's in our practice plan to say, all right, you're throwing this day, you're going to play catch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to do no lifting, no cardio. Wednesday, you're just doing yoga. And then Thursday, Friday, you're playing catch, lifting, running. So everyone who's on that plan does yoga on this day. People who aren't on that plan are doing yoga on a different day. But no matter what, everyone's doing yoga. So it's a good way to hold each other accountable. But it's also like a reset in our week to say, I just worked my ass off these 2 days. Here's my break to like reset my mind, to stretch my body out, get recovery in, get like an active flow going. Because I think it's so much bigger than just like stretching your muscles. It's everything, a flow, like you have to be present. You want to try to balance and you're thinking about your day tomorrow, you're thinking about people around you, you're going to fall over. So it's such a good break for us in between these like high intensity days.
And what would you say your experience in your body is after you do a yoga practice, Coop?
It's just like the waking up and feeling good is
Yeah,
such a
feel
good
good.
feeling to like roll out of bed and be like, ooh, I don't feel terrible today. Like that feeling is nice, and it's not a feeling you get a lot. Um,
Yeah.
so I've always been a big like advocate for yoga at night. I've always done it right before I went to bed. That's when like my group did it, and I just feel like I get the best sleep of my life whenever I do yoga. Like I just go to sleep relaxed. Um, but I've been starting to do it in the mornings more, so I can have both outlooks to speak on. But yeah, my sleep when I do it at night is something that I'm like chasing.
Yeah, isn't that amazing, man? How deep of a sleep you get after doing some yoga? Holy smokes, man. Do you
Uh,
at Kentucky, do you guys do a little bit of meditation too, or do you do any of that kind of like breathing work?
yeah, we're huge on breathing. So like, um, whenever we run out there, so like we go to the bullpen to stretch as an entire pitching staff. Before we start anything, before we start stretching, warming up, doing anything, we have to take not very much time, 2 to 3 minutes, to just sit down and breathe. Whether that's box breathing, whether that's just like consciously working on slow, deep breaths, because that's our time to disconnect from whatever happened before practice, disconnect from whatever has to happen after practice, and just be there to get better for the hour 30, 2 hours we're there.
Yeah.
So we always start with a breath work of some sort to be able to slow down and be present.
And when you're in your, I don't know if it's called a routine, but as a pitcher, I know you have like certain movements that you go through to prepare before you throw the ball. Is that called a routine?
Yeah,
Like your routine when you're going through your routine, is breath a part of your routine? Are you paying attention to your breathing? What is that whole experience like for
yeah.
you?
Well, I think it's it's something that I'm trying to be better at. I'm not great at it because breath work for me, especially when pitching, like you're on the mound, you have people yelling at you, you have something you have to do. Um, a lot of these things can get in your head, and it's easy to get once again lost. To say, "Oh, I'm now panicking," and panic is not something you want set in when like the game's on the line.
Yeah.
So breath work has been huge for me. Of like, if you watch me pitch, before every pitch, I'm like super deep, and then go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that just slows everything down. Yeah, that slows everything down for me to be able to do what I have to do. So like I could 100% be better at it when I'm warming up. When we're doing our active warm up, when I'm doing my arm care, like all these things could make me better at it that I should probably be doing that I'm working at.
Yeah, I love that. I love your attitude, man. You got a great attitude. You're always looking for ways that you can improve. And I mean, I sincerely mean what I say when I say that this being the first time that I met you, I'm incredibly impressed by your character, by your the way that you look at life, the way you're approaching what you're doing. You're the kind of person that I would that my kids would look up to, and I would allow them to look up to you. You know, I think that's really I mean, I think that says a lot about who you are, man. And I've really appreciated having you on the show. One thing I want to touch on before we wrap up is your parents. You've mentioned your parents,
Yeah.
Chad and Cece, right? And you have a brother named Carter. Is that
Or,
right? Younger?
yeah.
Yeah. So your parents, what have you learned from your parents that have helped you move through this process? And what do they mean to you?
I would never tell them this, and now they'll see it. But my like the way my parents have handled my experiences, my brother's experiences, like is exactly how I'm going to handle being a parent. Like for me, just their support, no matter what happened. I had a terrible game. I had a good game. I got a terrible grade on a test. I got a good grade on a test. It's like that none of that matters. It's just support. They just want to be there. They want to be able to see it. They don't need to talk to me for 2 hours about everything I'm doing. So that for me has been, I mean, you hear these crazy stories about parents want to be involved in everything and they don't let their kids have their own lives or whatever you want. Like, there's always those stories. And it's like, my parents have been awesome for me and my brother to be able to just kind of let us do our own thing, learn what life has to throw at us, because it's going to throw you in some terrible situations. It's going to throw you in some good situations. And just kind of allowing us to figure out, okay, how am I going to get out of this? Not necessarily how are my parents going to tell me to handle the situation.
Yeah, they've empowered you to make decisions for yourself.
Exactly. And that says so much about like who you become, how successful you're going to be just as a person, because you can't, it's hard. It's really hard to go throughout life with like a positive outlook, go throughout life and just like be a good person if you haven't thought for yourself. So just allowing us to be ourselves. And it's, my brother is way younger than me. He's 7-year age difference. So he's in middle school. And it's like, he's going to be his own person. Like, if he decided I don't want to play sports tomorrow, they'd be like, all right, what do you want to do? Like, we'll support it. They've always said that is like, if I decided I wanted to quit baseball, all right, how can we help? Like, let's find you something else to do.
Yeah. They got your back no matter what. What is that relationship like between you and Carter, him being younger? I mean, I would imagine he maybe looks up to you like a hero.
Yeah. It was like interestingly rocky from the beginning because I don't necessarily know the words for it, but he wanted to be like when I was in high school and I was 17, 18, he wanted to be 17, 18. So I think that was tough on my parents too, because like, how do you limit him? But I've noticed that recently it's been so much better, just because he always talked about he had these goals of he wants to play college baseball, or that could maybe change. Like, he wants to just sports in general. And I've now gone through life and I understand what that takes. And so I got frustrated with him a lot because it was like, dude, I could tell you everything you can do from here until high school that will 100% put you in a position of success to do what you want to do. And then he wouldn't do it. And for me, I would get so frustrated. It was like, I'm telling you, tell me you want to do this, and then you're not doing it. And it took like a conversation with my parents. Funny enough, it took a conversation with my coaches at Kentucky to be able to understand, like, he's 13 years old. He's got to be able to learn this stuff on his own. It's the same thing that I appreciated my parents for not doing.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to, like, know, all right, I've been sitting on the couch for 8 hours. I should do something. He's got to be able to know, I've done way too much today. Let me chill out. It's like, so that I can be good to go tomorrow. And I can't be there to like walk him through this entire process. And I think once I understood that, I've got to give him the reins to, like, I can be there if he needs help with something. But like giving him the leeway to be his own person. So that has been a huge difference.
How cool it is, man, that goes full circle from parents to siblings to just who you are as a person.
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing about that on a personal note, man. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to share something with you, a story that I have that's close to my heart. And having this podcast interview set up with you today made me think about it. Right. My grandfather was born in Italy and then ended up moving to the United States. And through Ellis Island, he ended up with an Italian group and his family in Cincinnati. And he was always a Cincinnati Reds fan. And so when I was growing up, which is
an hour away from Lexington.
I know, man. I might kind of have to come visit you. I've never been. I would love to go to the Great American Ballpark. Totally would love that. yeah, so I grew up in Colorado, and even when the time of the Rockies, when they were, the first season with them, I was kind of a Rockies fan, but I was always a Reds fan. Anyway, in 1992, and I only know that because it's burnt into this bat. My grandpa made me this bat, and my uncle burnt in my initials NOC, Nick Oliver Clark. But my grandpa made me this bat. Isn't that cool?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he used to I played some baseball through high school. I always loved it. I was a center fielder. I was never accurate enough by any means to do what you do, brother.
Yeah,
But I hit a couple home runs, and I remember when he passed away, my mom cleaned out his house and stuff, but there was a baseball in this mug with me holding the bat, and it was one of my first home run balls that I hit, and
that's
I don't
awesome.
know. I just wanted to share that with you. My grandpa would have loved hearing this interview with you, and definitely brought back some great memories. And Coop Robinson, it's been a pleasure having you on Play Hard and Love Big Radio.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the listeners, or anything that you'd like to say to the city of Folsom or coaches at Folsom High School before we sign off today?
I just think that the village makes the person, and so I'm super thankful for everyone who has helped me and who has helped my family. And so the city of Folsom has been absolutely awesome for me.
Right
So
on.
thank
So good. Yeah, man. Well, thank you for being a part of Spotted Dog Yoga. Everybody that's listening, make sure that you follow Coop, and I'll put his Instagram information in the show notes so you can check him out. But you can definitely follow him through the University of Kentucky baseball website as he goes forth and is creating his career as a baseball player. He's going to be in the studio the next couple of weeks, and this is going to be our last episode of the year. Moving into our 10-year anniversary weekend, which starts this weekend. On Friday night, we have a class called PJs and Puppies. Sounds funny, but it's a donation-based class for Hearts for Heroes USA. What they do is they train service dogs for police departments and fire departments, so that they can get some emotional support, and then they donate these dogs to these police departments and fire departments to help people deal with the emotional stresses of the job. And that's just one of the things they do. So there's a donation-based class on Friday night at 6 p.m. Y'all should come check it out. Katie and I are in town this weekend. Cooper, I'm teaching the one on Friday. I teach on Saturday and Sunday morning. Love to see you. And then on Sunday morning, we have a 9:30 class that's a dueling playlist class. We're going to play. There's going to be like 50 people there. It's going to be super awesome. And then on Monday, we have a Chris Stapleton class that's all Chris Stapleton music. So if y'all are in the area, come say what's up. Maybe you'll get lucky enough to see Coop. Cooper, thank you so much for being a part of Play Hard and Love Big Radio, man. And I wish you all the amazing blessings in the world as you continue forward in your baseball career and in your life, my man.
you very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll see you soon, brother.